the session today, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Victoria King. I'm one of the sector learning development leads here at the Housing Ombudsman, and it's just a quick hello from me and some housekeeping before I hand over to Verity. So the session today is being recorded, so if later you want to go back and refer to anything, or you've got colleagues that haven't been able to make it today, the recording will be available on our website under the Centre for Learning section. So the session today is around the submissions. It's for landlords with over 1,000 homes, and we've had some pre-submitted questions which we'll answer at the end. If you do submit during the session, we'll take these away and come back to you. And also just a reminder that we are in the pre-election period as well. Please could I ask, if you're not already on mute, if you could stay on mute, that would be great. And at the end of the session, I'll be putting a short evaluation form into the chat, and we would really appreciate your feedback. We really want to help shape the sessions going forward. It is definitely not an opportunity for us to pat ourselves on the back and say, yes, we've run a webinar for you guys. It is really an opportunity for you to tell us if the sessions met your expectations and what we can do differently and what you'd like support wise from us in the future. So thank you again for joining us. I'm going to now hand over to Verity Richards for the session.
Hi everyone, thank you Victoria for doing our housekeeping and letting everybody in, and welcome to those people that are joining us during the session. As Victoria's already mentioned, we are in the pre-election period, and that means that we are, as an Ombudsman service, under specific protocols, particularly around discussions that we're engaging with, which is why I'd highlight, if there are any questions that you do have about the submissions process, please do put them in the chat. The team are on hand. We will take them away, and we will certainly make sure that we do get back to you. It's not that we don't want to answer the questions, but we are in particular arrangements at the moment. So as we've said, the main overview that we're going to be... Oh,
sorry.
That's all right.
No, it's not.
Thanks, Victoria. So the main focus for today is about completing the submissions form. I know that that's been something which everyone has been really interested in seeing, and thank you to all of you that have provided some pre-submitted questions. Before I share the form with you, the structure for today, I'm going to actually go through and do a demonstration of the form that's being submitted so that you can see exactly what it looks like and other people can refer to it. We have shared some top tips just before we go into looking at the form. So I've said just be aware and plan for between 15 and 30 minutes to complete the submissions form. The amount of time that the submissions form takes to complete will depend on how much context information you are needing to send to the Ombudsman service. So where you are compliant with all of the provisions, it will take a significantly shorter amount of time to provide that information. Depending on who's doing the submission, we know that lots of different landlords will have different arrangements. Just making sure that whoever it is that has been assigned to do the submission, they know for starters, and that you just have the one person. We'd really encourage you to make sure that you're clear on that. It just means that there will be less duplicates. Less duplicate submission forms through to us means that we won't need to contact you for further information or any clarification. So just being clear on that, and making sure that whoever it is that is doing that submissions form, that they have access to all of the relevant information. You can see a list of the information and an overview of our screenshot guide, and I'll show you where that is, and the links are in the slides that we will be sharing with you after the webinar. Throughout the form, you'll be able to see mandatory questions which must be completed. They're starred with an asterisk. You won't be able to progress through on into the different parts of the form without completing those. We know that's very standard, but just highlighting that when you are doing the form. For the landlords which are in the room today, I would imagine that most of you will be providing links to us. So if you have a website, you're able to provide us with links to those documents rather than needing to provide upload information. We're really encouraging landlords to do that rather than submitting documents wherever possible to make it as easy as possible for you to complete that form. We will go and collate the information that we need, and we will be able to do that through the links which you'll be providing. For any landlord that doesn't have a website, and we do know that there are landlords that don't have a website, I don't imagine it's many of anyone in the, if any, in the room, then that is absolutely fine. We will be able to accept documents uploaded. We are asking that landlords provide them in PDF wherever possible. It makes it much easier on our side to make sure that all of the information that is needed is provided. It also means that that document is date stamped and it can't be changed, so it doesn't impact on any audit trails. The last point I would highlight is that if you are providing any explanations or further information because a provision isn't complied with as part of your self-assessment, please be succinct. You don't need to give all of the full information. That is already set out in your self-assessment, and we will be taking a copy of that anyway. So be succinct, be quite straightforward in the information that you're providing. That will make the form much easier for you to complete, and also from our side it really helps us because we can then look at those reasons and contact landlords more effectively where it's needed. So in terms of accessing the form, it is live on our website. You can access that form. It's there, it's available for anybody who is using the form. It's based, you would start with our complaint handling code page, and then there is a section which is the annual submissions form. I've just shown a screenshot of our website that you can see here. We've also emailed all of the chief executives that we have the information for and key contact detail to invite landlords and provide that link direct. So if you are the complaints manager or head of complaints or on the operational side, you may well find that that is passed to you to provide information. So just to make you aware of that. Now I have tested this, and fingers crossed the link that I've got here does come through. If somebody in my team who's on my screen can just nod and say, yes, absolutely, we can see the form. Fantastic. Thank you very much. What you'll find is once you have clicked through, this is the landing page for our annual submissions form. You'll be able to see it here. Just for clarity, yes, you can be absolutely sure it's 2024. In the future, obviously, these will be changed. But this is where we will be hosting the information that you will need to provide to us via the form. We've given an overview to help anyone that is doing those submissions. Some organisations, I'm sure, are going to be very au fait with the process, but others may choose to arrange for admin assistants or PAs to complete this. So we're just being mindful about that. You can see we've also provided some of the key resources that you may want to access during that process. It just is there for you for an easy reference guide. And we've also highlighted that throughout the process, the team, the Duty to Monitor team is available. You can contact us using the email, which is here. And again, this is also in the slides. So once you are ready to complete the form, if you are a new user, you will be asked to set up an account. The organisation which is providing this is Engage HQ. It's very, very straightforward information. So the screen name, an email address and a password. You can see here that's how it knows that it's me. I'm already logged in, so I'm logged in as myself. In the submissions form, we've got two key sections for this year. So the first set of information we've called here the key information. All of the fields in this particular area are mandatory with the exception of two. This allows us to make sure that we have the right information for landlords who are providing their submissions, and we can then verify that with our own internal documents and just make sure that we are able to audit, trail those through. And if there are any queries, so for example, you can see question 3 is the size of the organisation, number of units. That just helps us support our colleagues who are getting ready to do billing for the following year, which we hope will make that process more straightforward. So in terms of the contact email address, this will be what we're looking for here is the contact email of the person who we can contact to discuss the submissions form. We'd imagine that in most cases that's going to be the complaints team, but it may not. What we're encouraging organisations to be aware of is that ideally to use, where possible, a joint email address, so a contact us email address, for example. It just means that if there are any future inquiries, then we're not going to be waiting for any of that information if it goes to an individual inbox. We've seen that. I'm sure we've all experienced that frustration ourselves. So we're keen to try and avoid that. In terms of name of the organisation, a plea from us, please do use the full name of your organisation. That's what we'll be looking at to provide to make sure that we are getting returns from everybody on our landlord list. If you are used to doing abbreviations, so if it was myself, for example, HOS, we're quite familiar with the Ombudsman, I would be writing the Housing Ombudsman service here. So I'm going to start filling in the form. I'm actually just going to use my email address. And now I'm going to be cursed with typing in front of other people. So as I've said, I'm going to be calling myself the Housing Ombudsman Service. In terms of the size of the organisation, we would ask that that's the information that you're providing to the regulator of social housing. Large landlords, you'll be doing your returns at this point. It's not a test. We're not going to be doing a reconciliation with the regulator or providing this information to the regulator. So it's just purely for us to make sure that we can see if there are any major changes or discrepancies in the number of units between those organisations that we have on our books. So I'm just going to say that we've got 10. As you'll know, the Ombudsman doesn't have any. It's myself who's completing the form. What you'll see here is because I've done the form previously, there is a history here, but that is myself, and my job title is Head of Duty to Monitor. We're also asking organisations when they're providing the submissions form to confirm the reason that they are providing the submission to us. Now, many of you will be preparing for your annual submission. So most people will be selecting the annual submission in line with the statutory code. For large organisations, 30th of June. For small organisations, then that will be within 12 weeks of their financial year end, or at the time that they publish their tenant satisfaction measures. There may be times during the year through the work that we do to monitor compliance with the code that we request that an organisation resubmits their form. That would be if there is missing information, if the self-assessment needs to be updated and recompleted, but you will be informed and you will know if that affects you, and we'd ask you to select this option. And finally, we also know that during the year, organisations will be going through various changes, most of which you will be aware of before we are. So any mergers, any acquisitions, but also if there are any changes to operational arrangements which lead to a change to complaint handling. We've had a few queries on this. Really, we're talking here about where an event has led to business continuity plans being implemented. So you might be looking at, for example, a cyber attack, a loss of systems, or anything which is triggering those. Under those circumstances, we will expect landlords to let us know that there has been a change. So if they've implemented an interim policy, for example, as a result of a cyber attack, this will be how you'll be expected to let us know, and that is which option that is. We also have an other option because we know that there may be times during the year that a landlord does want to submit for another reason, and you can see there, please specify. So the date that you're submitting the form will be today. That'll be the date that you will be completing the form, and that is where for all organisations the process will be the same. As we've already said, if a landlord does have a website, so we're asking if landlords do have a website, and that they click yes, and then you can see here what it does. What the form does is then automatically updates and confirms the links to the relevant information. So that's a link to the self-assessment, the annual complaints performance and service improvement report, the governing body's response, and the complaints policy. So those are the 4 key pieces of information that we will be requiring. Now, depending on the organisation's arrangements, you may be choosing to host those as individual web pages. You may be choosing to host those as multiple documents on one web page. It will be for you to make that decision to make sure that those are there. And what we would be expecting is that the link to the landing page is included under each of those, even if there is the same. The reason I highlight that is that these are, as you can see, mandatory fields. So they will need to be inputted. We are encouraging organisations to make sure that those links are correct and complete. This will be what we use to go and collate the information to allow us to monitor compliance with the complaint handling code. If the information is already there, we will self-serve that information and we won't need to contact you to request further information or to confirm that information isn't missing. So please do be careful that those are completed. You can see here, it's one that I've done earlier, so I've actually put this information for Housing Ombudsman. As all of this information we hold as a web page, but also as individual documents, I've just put them in. This is just a demonstration. You will know that you're going to put those in there. If there is an organisation who doesn't have a website, and this is for information really, because I'm sure that you all will, they will be asked to, they will click no, and then they will be asked to upload copies of those files. They'll be able to select upload, and as you can see, selecting into that folder. I appreciate I am breaking my own rule, and that is a Word document. Please don't use a Word document. Please do use a PDF if possible. Apologies. Yes, mine is a Word document noted on there, so I'm not going to upload it here. I'm just going to complete those. So you can see there it should be very straightforward. The last few questions that we have on the initial page, so the first section is allowing us to monitor and to consider the impact of the complaint handling code from an organisational perspective. Those of you that are eagle-eyed will recognise that these are the same questions asked in the consultation. So we do have a baseline. It's really important for us to have that view. So as an organisation, has it helped promote a positive complaint handling culture? Yes or no? And then you'll see here that we are asking organisations who are willing to do so to share any learning or any changes which have been made in order to embed that positive complaint handling culture. This question isn't mandatory. It's going to be used as an opportunity for us to collate good practice, any information that landlords are willing to share with us. That would be very much appreciated. One of the huge benefits of taking this approach and being able to monitor compliance across the whole piece, so including all of our landlords, is that we're very sure that we're going to see some really great work that we would not have seen without this process. So please consider including that. Similarly, the other question that we are asking is about promoting fairness through consistency in complaint handling. So asking organisations to say whether, in their opinion, yes, it has, or no, it hasn't, and we'll be using that to look at the impact that the complaint handling code has had beyond the sector. That's the full information for the first section. Once you finish the first section, the form will then move on to asking organisations to confirm against each of the individual provisions as to whether the landlord has complied or has not complied with those individual provisions. You can see it's a radial button. You can select one or the other, and again, just highlighting this is mandatory. There's only the two answers: it's either complied or not. We're not asking organisations to provide evidence or to submit their evidence against each of those individual fields. As I've already mentioned, you've already done all of that work. It's in your self-assessments. We will take that information from your website, and we will collate and review those and examine those ourselves. The aim of doing that is just to make it much more straightforward for organisations to complete the forms. If an organisation is not able to comply with any or one or many of the code provisions, they will be asked to provide information about why the organisation has not complied with a particular provision, when they intend to comply, if there is a date, and the details of any alternative approaches that are put in place. And for those of you that have attended these webinars before, the website is the example. So saying that actually we don't have a website, we don't have a date for delivering compliance, but our alternative method is to provide a copy on the notice boards within our properties. That would be perfectly acceptable, and we would review it as a submission, and we will be examining those on an individual basis. For any organisation which has complied with all of them, this is a mandatory field, so you'll note there you will be asked to complete to write none, and we will be reviewing all of those. If you are an organisation who has said not complied and you do choose to put none, we will be contacting those organisations to say, well, actually, you've said you're non-complied. We are looking for that information. It's important that we are able to work our way through those. So I'll save and continue. You'll see each of the sections of the code have been highlighted. They each have their own individual page. For speed, I'm just working through these. Yes, I'm completing a test version, so yes, I've complied with all of the different information which is set here. I might decide that one of these is not complied, and in this circumstance I would be saying 2.3 not complied with, for example, awaiting governance approval of policy, anticipated compliance 1st of August 2024. I'm just making this up. It's just an example. Alternative is that we have informed residents through our newsletter. That's an example of the succinct information that we would be looking for. Obviously, we would expect to see more information in the self-assessment itself, and we would be able to look for that. Again, section 3, I'm not going to sort of go through these in great detail. I'm sure you're all well versed in the different provisions of the code and the information which is there. One thing I would highlight is if there are multiple sections which are not complied with, we'd expect those to be highlighted clearly. So code provision 3.7 and 3.6, these are the reasons, and just being clear. Again, that's really about ensuring that we don't need to contact you in future. We're trying to minimise our contact with landlords, so we don't need to be contacting you wherever possible. We should be able to access all of the information that we need from our website, from your website, or for those people that are providing information as documents, we will be able to examine those ourselves. I'm going to very quickly move through. Yes, I do appreciate that there are a large number of the code provisions that we do need to get confirmation on. The reason that we're doing it in this way is so that we can ensure that we do have visibility across all of our different organisations. You'll see that as we're collecting the information very consistently, it is an opportunity for us to capture insights. we will be able to see that by different types of landlords, if there is a particular provision of the code that they're not able to comply with, and look at that on the landlord level, so that we are in a position to provide additional support or review any of those particular provisions in the future. So just highlighting those as I'm making my way through the form. Apologies as I make my way through all of these. I can see that there are some questions in the chat. Hopefully we are in a position to answer them. Moving through in terms of the different areas, so putting all of the information which is in here, I do just want to highlight a couple of questions or a couple of points which have been raised just while we're in the room. We are aware that there are some landlords who have been finding the timings for publications quite challenging, and we are aware of those. We've said this in previous discussions that actually the right thing to do, highlight that they're not complied, and then have the information for when their publication is intended to be published in the final section, which you can see again is here. In this case, I would be putting that information there. Section 9 is our final section as we've been making our way through, and I appreciate I'm moving through these at pace, but hopefully it does show that this is it should be relatively straightforward to be completed. What you'll notice is instead of the button saying save and continue, you will see that that then says submit. As organisations who have completed the form, you will be sure that you have completed that form. You will see this this green highlighted document for you to be able to see that. I know that organisations have been very keen to ask whether they can get a copy of that form. Yes, that will automatically be generated to the email address that submitted that form. So if you are the person that's completed it, you will receive a copy of the submitted form. It will be dated. You will be able to have that as evidence if you need to evidence that internally to any senior bodies or directors or whoever's overseeing the process. You will receive a copy of that. It will be generated into that inbox, so you will be able to see those. Just going to close this and then hopefully we do. Yeah, that's it. So coming back onto the website page, bear with me 1 sec. In terms of the guidance and support that's available for any organisations which are completing it, we've highlighted previously that we have the complaint handling code key topic page. You can search for that on our website. It should be very straightforward to find. That is where you can launch into the landing page with the information that's there. We also have our guidance on annual submissions. That was published earlier on this year. But it is there for organisations to review, sets out the different parts of the submissions form. And if there is anyone who is sort of thinking about preparing for their submissions form or perhaps supporting another member of staff, we also have a screenshot guide which you can access, which goes through that in detail, confirms that we have any first-time users, and you can see here the information that would be requested at the point of registration. And then finally, I know that we've had some feedback. Sorry, just bear with me 1 second. We've had some feedback from landlords that we do move through the information that we're providing to you at pace. So as a reference, particularly for section 1 of the submissions form, we have provided a more detailed information and the reasons for any of that information to be collected. I know it's not always the easiest thing to do is to read this while you're completing the form, so I would suggest that if anyone is completing it, please do take a look at that screenshot guidance. It will be able to give you, or anyone that's completing the form, that context. Just finally, and I'll leave you to read and review that. As I've said, you will be informed of the successful submission. You'll be able to see that in green. And then for information, I've also provided, and you can see here, where the email will be generated from, which will provide you with a copy of your response. And you can see here, it's me that was signed in at the time, and we'll be able to see the different forms, and just highlighting, just in case anybody has any particular spam filters, or in case we are all very alert to cyber attacks and phishing. It'd be better if you don't mark that as a phish, please. If you want your copy, that's the email address that you'll be expecting that to come through from. The last thing we've also included is a summary of the top tips, or a little bit more information that is covered in this webinar, but for reference it is also there for you. And then finally, if you do have any queries about the form, we're just reiterating that the team is here to help. We want the process to be straightforward. We want to make sure that it's straightforward and easy for landlords, whilst collecting information that is important for us to complete that information and to do our return. I'm going to stop sharing my screen at this point because that is the overview of the information that we have. I said that we would run it as a demo, so hopefully that has been helpful. And I'm going to hand over to the colleagues within my team who are going to go through pre-submitted questions. I can see a number which are in the chat. We will get back to you and we will provide those responses once we're able to.
Thanks, Verity. One thing I will say is a lot of the questions that we've had pre-submitted have sort of been covered in the information that you've given, but we will go over them anyway, just because it's a lot of information and it'd be good to just kind of clarify and reiterate. So the first question is, will this course inform us where the link for the electronic submission is, and will we need to complete an electronic submission and also the Word document to publish on the website?
Yes, so the link to the submission form is now live on the website. We will ask you to submit your self-assessment directly to us, so you'll need to complete the electronic form and provide the links and upload the evidence required. We'll also ask as well just to complete the full self-assessment document and then publish that on your website as well.
Thanks, Bethan. So the second one is, due to the general election, many of our committees have been postponed, which means there will be a further delay in getting policies and self-assessment approved.
Yeah, so we do appreciate that the timing of the election may cause issues for some of our members in respect to the deadline to submit the required information to us. We ask that the landlord can ensure that the self-assessment and the annual complaints report, as it is completed and submitted to us by the 30th of June. As large landlords, the landlords can kind of explain in the submission any areas of non-compliance and then the reasons for this and the date that you're expected to become compliant. We also ask, that the landlord's governing body can then review the self-assessment and report at a later date, so there is a sufficient kind of internal scrutiny of this information, and it can then provide the response following this, which the landlord will then need to submit to us. This can be done using the same link, which is now available on our website. And if the governing body wants changes to be made to the policy or the self-assessment following review, this should be set out in the response, and then the revised policy and self-assessment submitted alongside the governing body response. But in the circumstances, we are likely to agree that the delay was reasonable.
Thank you. So another one is, can you please explain how we'll know that our submission has been made? Does the system generate an automatic email to send the information has been received? If this isn't a case, do we need to take a screenshot? So the reason they were asking is that they have to provide evidence to the governance team that the submission has been made by the deadline.
Yeah, so as Verity mentioned earlier, each landlord will receive an email confirmation once the form has been completed and submitted, and it will also they'll also receive a copy of the submitted responses that have been inputted throughout the form as well.
And then the last one is just when will we receive an invitation to provide our submission?
Yes, so it's now live on the website, as Verity showed the screenshot, and we've also sent an email round to all CEOs of all the landlords' main contact that we've got here on our membership records.
Okay, thank you. So yeah, that's all of our pre-submitted questions, and as Verity explained earlier, we're not in a position at this point to answer questions, but all the questions in the chat will be collected and we'll get back to you.
was taking myself off mute there. So thank you very much for everyone that's attended. I hope that is helpful. And I know that we've said this several times, but apologies that we're not in a position to answer those live questions. There are some good ones in there. We will certainly make sure that those ones are being circulated so that organisations do have that information to hand. The one that I am in a position to answer, the one that I can answer live, is around numbers of organisations and accessing the landing site. I know that that has been a key concern previously. Just to highlight, sort of to explain, Engagement HQ is our new consultations platform. It also provides consultation software support to very large organisations like Transport for London. So we are really confident that, yes, we will have the capacity for all of you to be submitting those self-assessments, even if, and hopefully not everyone will, but even if everybody is trying to do that submission within that very short window. So just to highlight that, I know that is a real concern, particularly for planning, and that is the one question that I am in a position to answer. So apologies for those who haven't had them answered, but we will make sure that we get that back to you. I can see that Victoria has also provided a copy of the evaluation form, just to highlight for anyone that wasn't able to sort of see right at the start of this. The feedback that we're looking for here, it's not about pats on the backs for us, it's about informing the future webinars that we run, particularly with the duty to monitor being so new. This is the last of our sort of second tranche, if you like, of webinars. We will be in a position to review our future offering. So any suggestions, any ideas or information, then please do share that with us and we will take that away and review it. Your feedback is really valuable to us. These sessions are for you, so that's why it's important. Appreciate that that's a slightly shorter session than planned. Again, that's just through the amount of live questions. We'll intend to get back to those people with the questions and anyone that's been in attendance, ideally within the week. We are turning these around really quickly. We do understand that this is really important, so we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Other than that, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon. I hope it's been useful. Take care and we look forward to your submissions. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.